What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the sixth album by rapper Xzibit. Basically, this product is called Full Circle, and that came out in the fall of 2006. So the thing about this particular product here is this is the fact. So the thing about this particular product is just the fact that this is Xzibit more so sans like his Dr. Dre and Eminem and like Aftermath affiliation more so than his 2004 album. So basically, Xzibit had some Aftermath kind of affiliation with folks like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Eminem, folks like that with Restless and to a lesser extent Man vs. Machine. But by the time he got to the 2004 stuff, Xzibit was kind of back on his own. The basic product of it was not so much that Xzibit just fell out with those particular folks, it's just the fact that his success was just not engulfed in like the same kind of tumultuousness just full bound. He kind of got more into acting and things like Pimp My Ride and some of those type of things. So he kind of deviated from like being full blown just rap, trying to concentrate on some of that. I mean, he did do rap albums every other year in like the 2000s, so it was just kind of the pitch as far as those things kind of happen. That he just was not nailing like the bona fide singles, like something like 50 something like 50 cents in the club or Disco Inferno or Candy Shop, some of those type of pitches, or Eminem's Just Lose It or Ass Like That, or Mosh, or some of those type ones that Eminem and 50 Cent were kind of doing left and right as far as those pitches can happen. Just the Aftermath trends. I mean, Xzibit was kind of an affiliate of that and kind of like a distant a third wing kind of cousin within that relative aspect. But there were just folks like G Unit was blowing up around this particular time. The Game was blowing up around this particular time. Buster Rhymes, some of those type of folks, and there wasn't as much kind of full bound room for Xzibit, but he still managed to get like the occasional hit. I do mostly recommend like his 2004 album Weapons of Mass Destruction. It does have some good gems on there. I mean, I reviewed that way back in 2015. I'd probably give that a relatively higher score. I don't remember what I gave it back, 10 years ago back in 2015, but I would have to say it'd probably have a relative good aspect about it to say that there are some gems on there. Xzibit's one of those type of folks that gets like these offhanded albums and it definitely has the pitch behind it. So this is a damn well pretty great album to kind of get within that aspect. I enjoyed it more reviewing it today more so than I remember enjoying it back, 10 years or even almost 20 years ago as far as those pitches can happen. It's kind of an offhanded type one. This is one that has a lower budget, kind of has the aspect of less chart appeal, still does have some big names on here like Corrupt, Daz Dillinger, DJ Quick, T-Pain, Too Short, The Game, some of these type of folks, King T, even some of those type of folks in particular. But this is kind of the aspect that it just does not have like that commercial smash. Really no single off this charted, really no single off this album charted whatsoever in America as far as those pitches can happen. It's just kind of the tone that this was strictly kind of more Xzibit kind of back on the underground type fare, just with like the budget of like a more mainstream type project. It just really, this is like some underground Xzibit with more of like the budget, with more of like just the appeal of like a mainstream type project, just because you probably knew who Xzibit was in late 2006, early 2007. It's just the concept it just didn't have like the mainstream kind of smash as far as those pitches can happen. This album really didn't sell that well, but it's a pretty fulfilling project. Just the concept of Xzibit having dropped an album every other year since 1996 all the way to 2006 was just the concept. He took a pretty sizable break after this particular album, and then he dropped Napalm in 2012, and then he just didn't put out anything else after that. He was originally going to drop Restless 2 like in 2008. That never happened, and then he had some other projects that he was working on. He did like in the early years of Acid Roots back in 2015, 2016, I did review some stuff that he did with like Be Real and Demrick, which he did like the Serial Killers projects, which he did a couple mixtapes with them and then an album with them. So I am going to have to get to some of those, and I think Xzibit at least dropped maybe like a mixtape or two beyond that. But that's what he's been up to circa like the mid 2010s. But it's probably been since 2016, 2017 since I really have full bound known what Xzibit's been up to in terms of what he's done. But he does have some pretty serious and nasty type products, and this is definitely one of those. So just be able to say, yeah, just to say again, Full Circle is like, damn, it's pretty much on the cusp of being like an offhanded kind of classic. I mean, it's kind of underappreciated, kind of a seldom type project, doesn't get the respect it deserves, does maybe doesn't have like the casual kind of commercial smashes, but is a good look. Xzibit's definitely pretty comfortable on this product, and he has a lot of good affable songwriting, despite the fact that the big names like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Eminem are not on here. It's just a good type project about within the same kind of fashion as Weapons of Mass Destruction, just a little bit more buzzing and just a little bit more underground than that particular one even. So it's just like if the budget was probably decreased by like 25% on Weapons of Mass Destruction, I'd probably say the budget is probably increased by like another 15% on this particular album as far as those decreased by like a good 15% from where it was in 2004 on this particular album. I just would have to say. So it's just within the pitch behind it. But yeah, there's some good stuff here. There's really only 3 songs. There's 14 songs on this project, and minus one skit that narrows it down to 13. Now to the remaining 13 songs, I wound up recommending 10. So that's pretty much, if it had been 12 out of 15, this album probably would have gotten a 10 out of 10, but 10 out of 13 is virtually pretty relatively close to getting a classic. It's not going to quite get like a 9.5, something like that, but it's going to get a rather high score, more than what I was expecting from what I remember this album in the past when I used to listen to it. But it's a good concept. But so basically, the lead single is Concentrate. This is a song I remember from back in the day, as far back as 2006 when this album came out. Real nice smash hit here. Maybe not commercial wise, but it is a good tune. It's like a basic and kind of minimalist club joint to kind of get here. Just a thumping kind of percolate hitter. I would definitely feel like in a buzz song to definitely get within that tone, just a mid jumper to kind of have. So the concept behind this song just has a real kind of just tribal like chant on this particular one. Just really feels like something out of a witch doctor, something like that. Just that relative type tone. I mean, this is a good type song, real clever within the concept behind it. But I just think the chant of this particular song, considering that that's all the production really is, it's just some like just some kind of witch doctor type dude chanting like the same phrase over and over, just within the pitch behind it. I mean, it's a good song within the pitch, but it's just kind of the concept that it may be somewhat grating for folks who may not be as full bound used to it. This is kind of one of those ones that you would play, maybe not obsessively, but it's just a good concept to kind of throw in there with like some spices, like a relatively uncommon kind of Xzibit song kind of have. But this is like the only real club joint out of the 3 singles that Xzibit dropped off this product. But it is pretty nice buzz single to kind of get here. Just nice, good, nice, good relative bop, and kind of an uncommon type one that's real seldom, and especially in today's time. So it's good type pitch. Another kind of seldom song that works pretty well, but this is a different taste of what's going on, is Family Values. It's like a bleary and kind of springtime breeze of a song, kind of get within that pitch. Just some extra time, kind of appreciation and lollygag kind of step outs as far as those pitches kind of happen there. It's kind of the pitch behind it is kind of an aspect of just having some free time as far as those pitches kind of go, just getting some errands done, just kind of a bluesy kind of just routine. It's kind of a bluesy kind of seldom type day. Maybe not so much bluesy in terms of like depression, but just the concept of just some extra time just within the pitch of just kind of just like doing something that you may only have time for within like maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks, something within that relative type pitch as far as those fairs kind of happen. Just an extra type time to go out and shop for socks, something like that, buy a new belt, some of those type fairs just within the pitch behind it, some of those particular type tones. Get some good concepts going just within the pitch behind it. Maybe visit like a joint, like maybe visit like a food joint that you don't commonly visit, like Quiznet, one of those more tertiary or quaternary type ones, like Blimpies, or less common Subways or Arby's, some of those type ones that are just not as frequent within the tone behind it. Just a good pitch to kind of have for some of that. I mean, the name of this song is Family Values, so it's just within the pitch behind it, but it's just kind of within the tone of just kind of feeling like a real, this kind of it's real kind of breathy and airy type song, kind of get within the pitch. It's just something that feels great for listening to in late March, April, and May, as far as those pitches kind of having this good type tone for like some good kind of just overcast, just relatively just this kind of springtime fog as far as those pitches kind of having this good type tone for that, just good nice mist to that. And then Thank You is a good single here. Now this is another surprising one for Xzibit. These are just 2 good pitches that really carve out some of Xzibit's songwriting. I didn't used to like both Family Values and Thank You back in the day when I remember this album. I kind of wanted more songs like Concentrate, but I appreciate these songs a lot more now. Thank You is like a sobering kind of real talk song, kind of get here, just a basic kind of rainy day makeshift commute. I would definitely say about this one, it's like some surprising blue collar to kind of get from Xzibit as far as those pitches kind of happen. Normally, it wouldn't seem like Xzibit would have this sort of song in them as far as those pitches kind of happen. This feels like something that more of like, more of someone like Snoop Dogg or LL Cool J or DMX would have done, one of those type of folks. Maybe not DMX, but maybe like Nelly or Ludacris, someone like that just would have had a more sobering type song. This feels like a song by Ludacris off of his Release Therapy album. just kind of within the pitch. It is something like Runaway Love just in the pitch behind it. But it's a real nice one. Just works within the aspect. Feels like an Eminem leftover. Feels like a Ludacris leftover or a Nelly leftover, one of those type pitches, but it works extremely well. Just back, like I said, back in the day, I didn't appreciate this song as much, but it just really has like the nailing point of just being like just kind of a sobering type song that just really stands up to its reasons and just kind of has the concept of just being something that's just kind of like, hey, grateful, appreciative pitches like that. Just kind of the concept of this manning up and kind of having the reserve about just the concept of just being more sobering within the pitch as far as those pitches can happen. Just good for some rainy day makeshift pitches like that, some standard commerce of just Monday, Tuesday type traffic just in the pitch behind as far as those fares going to happen there. That just kind of happens to be the tone. So yeah, so basically, like I was saying, I wound up recommending 10 songs out of 13 on here. So I'm going to go ahead and give this album like an 8.75 out of 10 because I would feel like 12 out of 13 would be a 10 out of 10. 11 out of 13 would be like a 9.25. So 11 or 10 out of 13 would be like an 8.75 pitch, just like that. It's right on the cusp of getting a 9. I mean, this is definitely way better than it is. And as far as this pitch going to happen, really inspired Xzibit, just considering how offhanded this product kind of is. And just the fact that most folks seemingly were starting to kind of rub Xzibit out of like the spotlight and just kind of start to full blown forget about him. I want to say he only had like another 5 or 6 months left to like pimp my ride by this point. So that was starting to wear away in pitches like that. So it's just kind of the concept that Xzibit's main claim to fame was starting to dissipate, and he was just starting to, not so much to dry up full blown, but just kind of within the pitch, and just questioning where he was headed next. Just kind of within the pitch behind. But this is a good type project, just in the aspect. It has a lot of this. I mean, this is like the sort of stuff. This is one of the main reasons why I was pretty hungry for like an Xzibit album back in 2008. It just would have made me really curious as to what Xzibit would have done with like 2008 type era. Because like I was saying, he was originally going to put out Restless 2 around that time. Would have been pretty interesting type pitch to have gotten a 2008 Xzibit album just to see what he could have done, especially without Pimp My Ride and like the Hollywood movies type fare, just because he did movies in like the mid-late 2000s, but I just question what he would have done album-wise. Probably would have been pretty melded. But so yeah, the only 3 songs I don't recommend on here would just be Invade My Space, Black and Brown, and Moving in Your Chucks. So talk about those. Basically, Invade My Space is just kind of a clumsy type intro type one. This kind of felt like a plodding along type one. Was just like a worse variation of a song like Poppin' Off or one of those type ones. Kind of had like some it was just supposed to be like a kickoff type project that just kind of was like this is kind of like the lowdown on what to expect from like the album in terms of like Welcome to My World type fare, but it just didn't nail it nearly as well. I feel like songs like Rampart Division and like Say It to My Face and like Popping Off just nailed those particular themes. Like Rampart Division was kind of the more this kind of afternoon, late evening type fare. Then that's kind of what Invade My Space kind of was, but it was also kind of with a little bit of like frenetic, almost night venue type fare of Popping Off. But then it was also just kind of like with the no BS kind of tone of Say It to My Face. So it's just within the pitch, but Invade My Space just didn't pull out the vibe of those 3 songs. So it's just within the pitch behind it. I did like the production on Black and Brown. It was just too lengthy of a song. I feel like with this particular one, it's trying to be more of like a personal type one, just kind of the concept of a real talk type song, kind of like one of those like ones like Family Values and Thank You. Some of the pitches that just switches the tone a bit, but I don't know, just the composition that particular song probably needed to be staved off by a little bit. Probably trimmed by about 45 seconds, something like that, or even a minute, something of that relative type tone. Just feel like the composition behind it, I don't know, it just felt like more critical kind of commentary more so than was full blown necessary. I like the concept of it, but it just felt more of just like a real kind of just like observational type song more so than the concept of what probably was full blown necessary. I'd say. I mean, it probably just needed probably a little bit more joviality towards it. It's kind of felt like an A&E type song as far as those pitches kind of happen. And Moving in Your Chucks is this is probably one of the more awkward songs on this particular album. I mean, it kind of had like a floaty type beat. It felt like a song that you'd listen to when maybe you had a little bit of smokage in your system, but it was also kind of like a dreary kind of just makeshift afternoon, something like that. Just kind of felt it was just the composition behind this song was just not really as nailed as in the pitch behind it. Just kind of felt dreary in a sense, but it also felt glazed in the same sense as far as that particular kind of went. It was just not. Just kind of felt scattershot, and just the tone behind that particular one just didn't really have as much full blown appeal, which is too bad because it wasted a feature of Too Short and Corrupt off this particular one. They didn't really help enhance that song. It was just kind of the concept. It just felt like more of a blunder within the concept. Probably just needed an overall different production altogether. It just felt like one that just didn't have as much full blown pizzazz about it. But yeah, every other song on here is a good steal as far as those pitches can happen. Like I said, this is like a very offhanded type product. Just has some roundabout type productions, and without Dr. Dre, without Eminem, without Snoop Dogg, without some of those type of folks, just kind of the appeal that this is just Xzibit more relying on his simple self to be able to get a lot of this done. But for the most part, it basically nails it. So some of these type ones, real nice one on here would be On Bail. This has T-Pain on the hook, Daz Dillinger from the Dog Pound, and then The Game on here is a pretty nice one. It's like a good ride about in like a Cali evening sunshine type. On Bail is like a good ride about in like some Cali evening sunshine. I'd had to say about this one, just a primer for like some night venue hops. I'd had to say here, and this is pretty hooky type song, and this song has particular hella slap about it. I'd had to say, and this particular song has hella slap about it. I'd had to say, so it's just within the pitch behind it. Real nice, just kind of summer evening type fun, just in the pitch behind it. Definitely crease it, just definitely khaki pants, pitch just like that, just standard fare, definitely khaki pants, standard fare, looking like Be Real or The Game, Be Real from like the early 90s, or The Game from like the mid 2000s with his Cali joints that he would get off the documentary and Doctor's Advocate, some of those type pitches. Snoop Dogg looking like he was on the cover of like the Blue Carpet Treatment mixtape, some of those type fairs. That's kind of, it's a surprising thing that Snoop Dogg is not on this project. It's actually one thing I would have figured that he would have been on here, because Xzibit was on the Blue Carpet Treatment, but it's surprising that Snoop Dogg was not on this project. That probably would have been a good appearance for him to have been on here. Would have been a real nice type one to have gotten, but he just isn't. But On Bail is probably one of that. This is one of the most immediate songs that I'd say. T-Pain definitely really enhances this product, makes from one of the more vanilla type songs on here, and definitely one of the most commercial ready. That's not a single. It's probably like the second most commercial one I'd have to say to go for in terms of immediacy beyond Concentrate, unless you're looking for something a little bit more serious. But Rollin' is a nice one. It's like a feeling high as hell, kind of usual antics fare. I'd have to say about this particular song. Just laughs and snickers about this particular song. Good stuff for that. And it's like some goodies and kind of hangout glaze kind of get here. It's a real nice one to just be sniggering, watching things like Jackass, just kicking back with your homies, pitches like that, just smoking hella good, pizza all over the place, pitches like that, some of that type fare, just popcorn, some of that type fare, just standard, just one of those type ones where you're just enjoying the night, and pitches like that, just some good, just kind of after effects of just homies type music. I'd say just real nice one. Definitely need more songs like this. Xzibit's pretty good at doing like these homies type songs. There was one that there was a single that was off of Weapons of Mass Destruction called Motherfucker. That's pretty similar in like homies type music to like Rollin', just in the pitch behind him. And that Motherfucker is just more of like a laid back kind of homies type song, but Rollins definitely a good one to be torched as hell, I'd have to say. Popping Off is a real great song. This is another one of the most immediate songs to go for out this product, and this has some good appearances on here. This has DJ Quick and King T on here, which is probably one of the few songs I can think of in recent times, past about like early 2000s, past like 2002 or 2003, where I can think of a cat like King T being on here. I want to say that he was one of the alcoholics that Xzibit used to roll around with as far as those pitches going to happen. Not sure it's full bound. I don't know too much about King T, but it's also dope that DJ Quick was on this particular song. It's like a janky and kind of offset club hitter to kind of get here, just a roundabout pairing with Concentrate. I would definitely feel like within that tone, just like a posse highlight to kind of get within that pitch. So this is a good, nice one. Probably the two most immediate club type bops on here would be Concentrate and Popping Off. I would also say that On Bail's like a good third one to kind of have within that aspect. It's not, I feel like the energy is just a little bit more ravenous on Popping Off and a little bit more electric on Concentrate, but it's just a good pitch to have these trio songs that just have for like some good night venue appeal, because yeah, Xzibit does step out on this particular project. A real nice emphatic type song on here would be Say It to My Face. It's like a searing and glared kind of night venue fierceness to kind of get within this pitch behind it. It's like a taste of no BS and kind of a stone face type song, kind of get within that tone behind it. This is a real solid type one to kind of get here. I like the Corrupt intro. He had some good lines on the beginning of this particular song. Good type pitch, kind of get this one. It's kind of Xzibit on some real talk, this kind of don't fuck with me today type pitch, as far as those pitches can have with it. Just good aspect, kind of have some of that type tone with it. Say It to My Face has a real excellent hook on here, and just a real kind of just glaring kind of this murky type production that really works extremely well, I have to say, within the pitch behind it. So there's not much Eminem product on this particular product. Usually Xzibit's a pretty good pal with Eminem, and you can kind of see some of those leftover traces. But one of the few songs that I'd say that reminds me at least mildly of Eminem, at least mildly reminds me of Eminem off this product, would be Scandalous Bitches. It's like an in-between kind of Afternoon Sunshine to kind of get here. Reminds me of like an Eminem album cut. I would definitely feel like here, just some basic forays kind of get within that pitch. It's one of those type ones. Feels like a leftover cut from like the Slim Shady LP or the Marshall Mathers LP. Something like, Drug Ballad, or like something like Drug Ballad or As the World Turns, or I'm shady, one of those type pitches that just feels like laundromat type music, and just, you know, gusty kind of day, just type tone, just in the pitch behind it, just extra activities, just simple errand running pitches like that, airing out some chicas, some of that standard type fare, getting laundry done, some of those type pitches just within the tone behind it, is standard type pitches just in the tone, picking up some routine kind of stacks and goodies, getting like lighters, some of that type fare just in the pitch behind it. This standard more Tuesday, Wednesday type music, I'd say, within the pitch behind it, just in between definitely. The whole world is a nice one on here. This is a differential type one. This is one of the more hair raising type ones off this product. It's like a frenetic kind of night commerce and activity to definitely get here to some jolting errands and like the after hours. I would feel like within that pitch behind is a good song to smoke to. Yeah, I would definitely say a good song to smoke to off this particular album would be The Whole World, in terms of like a more standard kind of 3-6 Mafia night shift type sense, just in the pitch behind it. Just whether it's car traverse or just on foot errands getting done, just in the pitch behind it, just kind of frenetic. I would almost say paranoia type song, but just in the pitch, it just kind of being more just like in motion type mode, just a bustling type song and like a night sense, just with the pitch behind as far as those after effects of just getting some tasks done, just in the concept of like, you know, past 7 o'clock p.m. after the sun is set, pitches like that. I'd say just standard type one, get like a burrito, checks mix, some of that type fare just in the pitch behind it. It's interesting type fare to kind of get Xzibit on some of that, just, you know, night treks in terms of those pitches as far as that particular kind of happens, just standard night owl type activity. And then Rampart Division's a nice one as well. It's like an evening kind of after work shift straightening, kind of get off this particular song by straightening and just main, you know, getting laced up, figuring out, getting tasks situated as far as those pitches going to happen. Just wanting to wind down, but more tasks are kind of necessary for the day as far as those pitches going to happen. I would definitely say this is not so much like a makeshift type song, but it's just within the pitch. If you have like an extenuated day, something like that, where normally you would be going home after about 4:30 or 5 p.m. pitches like that, but you have a few extra things that you have to do that maybe you don't full bound want to do, but it's just in the pitch of just getting those last minute tasks wrapped up, just additional errands for the day as far as those pitches can happen. This just feels like one of those type ones. Now I realize within the lyricism of this particular song, it just depicts the concept of just like, you know, cops and pitches like that, just the concept of like standard type fare of like, you know, just like standard gang violence and pitches like that you think about when you think of like cop type fare from like the 90s in California, when you think of like the 90s riots, some of that type fare was just within the pitch as to what probably would be like something within that task. When you think of cops, you would like, for some folks, when they think of cops, they would probably think of like toils and just like standard just dredge and just monotony as far as those pitches can happen. You just would think, well, what's monotonous more so than errands and, you know, more tasks that you have to do. It's just within the pitch. It's just within the pitch to kind of have within that tone for like the concept of just realizing that there's more things that you have to do within the standard day that maybe you just don't want to have to do. This would be a brighter way of looking at it within that particular song. I'd say it's just within the tone, but it's a good type tone for that. This standard pitch and just having extra straightening to do for that relative evening and pitches like that. Just after work shift, not quite wind down yet, but just the after effects of it. Just in the tone. It's good, nice one. Clever type concept for Xzibit as far as those pitches can have with a good type tone. So that's the pitch behind this particular album. So like I was saying, 8.75 out of 10 within the fare behind it, just within the pitch. I'd say the social score, that's kind of tricky. I'll probably give the social score, I'd actually say I'll probably give the social score like a 9 out of 10. I'll probably raise the social score more so than the standard score of this album, just because there are some gems on here. Like the fact that this did have some good guests on here. T-Pain, Daz Dillinger, The Game, DJ Quick, King T. Some great productions on here, some good club type gems, like some good kind of serious type songs, and just pitches like that switches the tone. It's just kind of the aspect that Xzibit is kind of similar to Eminem and folks like Ludacris and Nelly that have the ability to kind of switch the tone from not just having like the jovial type moments and the more festive type moments to have some other and different type tones and just be able to do it. So this has some great songwriting on here. It's pretty sociable type product. Xzibit does step out just in the pitch. Like I was saying, the songwriting really has some vividness just about it to be able to have some different aspects and kind of have it have like a relative kind of electric like display as far as being able to do it. So it's just within the pitch. I feel like there's some pretty standard display, even despite the fact that all three of the singles are not lively and more kind of nightclub-ish. I'd say there's some good concepts like some other type ones like Rolling, On Bail, and Popping Up that do have some good pitches to just have some things be social. And I'd also say that Say It To My Face is a pretty good taste, like some night venue-ness as well, I'd have to say. So it's just good pitch for that. Just good overall aspects, some smoking songs in here. Occasional, just 40-ounce type music, probably something like that, just in the tone, some cruise around type music, just some good type pitches, just having like some standard, just out and about, some pitches like that. So yeah, 9 social. In terms of the future, like Xzibit was supposedly working on a new album as far as those fairs can happen. Not really as full bound sure what's up with that. Is he's been saying that for like the better part of this decade and the previous one as far as those pitches can happen. So it's just kind of within the concept, not really as full bound sure what's going to happen with that, but we'll just have to look after. But yeah, this is like, I mean, it's near a classic. It's not maybe not a full bound classic, but it's definitely within the territory of being like an arguable classic. I'd have to say within the pitch behind it. I mean, the fact that there's only 3 songs out of 13 that are not recommended is pretty good pitch. Some of these might have more arguable kind of quality about them, depending upon your taste about it. But I'd say this is a virtual, pretty damn well stellar highlight, and it's just good pitch behind it and very overlooked virtual kind of just hitter that has a lot of good things to really speak volume about.